Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of UKU with Grow. Now today's a little different because we're in my garage today and we're going to be looking at building some brood boxes for our beehives. Now typically brood boxes tend to be made with pine or cedar or something like that, but I've been making our beehives over the last couple of years out of ply. Now if you want to know, there are lots of kits and things that you can buy for making, your beehives, and we've done episodes before where we've made up kits, and we'll put a description above here where you can go and look at that video. But in this episode we're going to talk about building brood boxes from ply, because when you've got 20-30 hives then it can get expensive building them from cedar, and I'm finding that ply is working very well. There's some things that you need to know firstly about building them from ply. Okay, ply is very heavy and it comes in 8x4 sheets. You can get smaller, or you can have places like Home Depot or B&Q cut it up for you ready. As you can see here, I've got just a really cheapy table saw, and it's very small, and I've built a table around it because obviously trying to manage an 8 foot by 4 foot sheet of ply on a 1.5 foot table saw is a nightmare. This is very cheap, the top is rubbish, but by building a table around it, it's allowed me to do this. Now everything I'm doing here, although I'm using this table saw, could be done with hand tools like like a circular saw. You could set that up on a table or some saw horses. You can cut your pieces from that using a circular saw, and it's exactly the same way. Now the plywood, as you can see behind me, we've got some ply. There's two pieces here. I've cut them in half more or less so that they're a bit more manageable when we're on the saw. And what we're doing is we're cutting them down to blanks like this. Now these blanks, okay, this is a plywood called WBP. WBP, basically all it is a plywood, and the laminations within the plywood are glued together with a waterproof glue. So it's an exterior grade plywood. It's not marine plywood because that's impregnated with chemicals, which is not good for the bees. But the exterior grade plywood is very, very good. And what it does, it prevents all these little laminations of the timber from coming apart with water ingress and what have you. Now, what you can see here, okay, is some plywood that is not WBP, and obviously the water has literally just delaminated it, look. Yeah, so you can see how it's made up. So you've got layers of veneers running different directions for each layer, and that's how it works. But literally water ingress got in there and it's literally just peeled apart. So they are no good to man nor beast. You must have an exterior grade ply, and these will typically last 5 years. I've had a plywood hive body for 4 years, and it's still looking as good as the day we had it, and it helps obviously if you paint them. So what I've been doing is making up some blanks, and all we've got left now is to cut down some of these boards to the right width. I'm just going to set my table saw and we're going to go from there. So the last thing we want, we're in an enclosed space, we're going to be cutting, there's going to be dust going everywhere. We are going to be in the process of setting up an extraction system in here, but in the meantime I still need to cut this ply. So a good mask and some safety glasses, and if you've got a ear protection. I'm not going to bother with the ear protection because I've left them up the allotment. Now I'm just going to cut some of these sheets now into strip lengths, and when I have those we'll come back to you. What I will say to you before we go, guys, when you're operating a saw, you just want the blade of the saw just above the plywood because you don't want it protruding too far. Now typically table saws like this have a blade guard that come over the top and what have you. I've removed that mainly because I use a sled and things like that. and also get in my way when I'm cutting big sheets of ply. And I'd rather see where the plywood is to be able to push it through. So there we have it, guys. We've cut them down now to a nice safety size, and then the next stage that we want now is these have been now cut to this width, and we now need to cut these down into slices. And essentially what we're doing here, we are creating the sides where, because we're building nationals, we can then put our pieces in the center and we're just cutting them down. And all we're doing is creating blanks for the moment. I'm going to come back to you in a bit once we've got all the blanks done, and we'll have a look at it from that point. So we're now in day 2, guys, of this build, and as you can see here, I've got all the blanks. So we've got enough blanks here now to make 34 boxes. Now these ones are, as we showed you before, slightly bigger than these ones, and that's why, is because they come across like this. They're also slightly shorter in the height as well here. Now what the next step is for us is to actually pre-drill some holes in all 3 stacks of these, and we'll show you that now. So here we've got our drill, and as you can see, I've got 4 marks on the fence here. Now what those marks will do is allow me to line the board to this one, which will give us the center one, and this one. So that gives us the center mark within the board. And then we move it this way for the top mark, and this way to that line for the bottom mark. That will mean that all 3 holes are identical in all of the boxes right around the box. So, and this is a drill bit plus a countersink. So it's just a case of switching it on, lining up, and drilling. So we now move to this mark here on the fence, to the edge of the board, which will give us the top one, and move it right across now to this mark here on the right of the board, which will give us the bottom one. Just a case now of turning the board around and repeating those processes. And this certainly will speed up this section of the job, because we don't want... There we go, look. So we've got 3 nice drilled holes with countersinks for the screws. There's no tear out or anything. We now have 2 sides with drilled and countersink holes, and we have 2 sides with nothing. Okay, now the next stage of this is to assemble them, and for that I have a jig. It's a bit of melamine board with some timbers here. All it does is helps me to align them and make my life easier by giving me an extra pair of hands. So we essentially just stand up these within the jig, and this just helps me to align them and to line things up. Right, so the next step that we use now, we need to offset these pieces in the center, and what I do for that, I use this. I've got a little block here with a stop on, and we literally just line it up here, and then we can screw. Now 3 screws per corner, and that'll keep it nice and square for us. So all we need to do is just hold it there, get the first screw in. Now this jig is quite tight, as you can see on the box, so we just got to give it a pull. We can take the jig off, and there we have another frame that's set, and it fits our boxes with the correct B space, guys. All right, so all we've got left now are these filler strips here, and that will create a place to shed water, and also a piece that continues being part of the frame rest. It's the third day, and now we need to change all of this into little blanks like this master here. And what this is going to do is going to give us a grab handle or a rail, and we're also going to cut some of them off at a chamfer, which will help shed water away from the box. Those rails are typical of a national hive. So first off, we're going to convert all of this timber here to this size of pieces, and then we can work from there. And it's just, all I'm going to use for this is my chop saw. And I'm literally just going to butt up. It hasn't got to be perfectly aligned. Just plug him in and away we go. Always use the same master, because obviously if you use a different one each time, and it is a slight mistake in it, eventually you could be out by quite a long way. So I'm going to get on and get these done, and we'll go through the next step. We have 2 stacks of these bars that we've now cut down to length. I've also, as you can see here, I've cut a shim off each of them. And the reason being is they're slightly too thick in the dimension timber that we could get hold of. But I wanted to buy planed timber rather than sawn and cutting myself. And you know, I can do all of that, but I'd rather just speed things up. So we've cut that shim off just to one side. Now, the reason we have 2 stacks here is this stack needs to be treated slightly different to this stack. So I'm going to push them out of the way. They've got to go through a router, which will be another step you'll see in a moment. These ones, okay, they now need to come through here, and we need to create an angle on them. Very similar to this. So I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Yeah, it's a 35-degree angle. So we're going to run these through, and once these are done, we'll get on with the next step. Okay guys, so now we've cut all these at this 35-degree slope, and we've got all of them cut here. So these are ready for the next stage, a little bit of sanding and what have you. The next thing we need to do is cut this stack that's over there, and we need to cut a rebate in this stack. And what that's going to do is take the end of this frame, just like that, Okay, so we're basically cutting out a little rebate, the thickness of this frame. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to set up the router and we're going to run these through. Now when we run them through this router, instead of running them through the big table router, I'm just running through a little 1/4 inch router here because it's easier for the setup. And we're going to put them through 3 times, raising the blade each time. As you can see, we now have our rabbets in all of our other pieces. So what we have here are 2 separate sections. We've got one with a little rabbit here, and we've got one with a 35-degree angle. What we need to do now, we need to put in, this is our brood box. We need to take our drill and just put in 6 holes to screw. So I'm going to do that a bit quick. Okay, we need to take now our one with the angle bit, and that comes down here in the bottom, and we just fit that in nice and tight. So we're going to spin the box over to keep it nice and tight. There we are. A couple of screws in there. And then all we need to do then is repeat it for the other 3, and I'll do that now in a moment. One more. So that's now fitted. As you can see, we just need to do the other 3. So I'm going to get on with that, and I'll speed up the video for you to see. So there we have it, guys. There's your finished super, or your finished brood box I should say, and it's ready to go. So we've just got the other 33 of these to put these bars on, but they're all cut, as you can see over there, and behind the camera the angled ones. So that's it, guys, how to build a brood box from scratch with plywood. Now I've got the other 33 to do, and I'll get on with those now over the next few days, and then all that's left to do then is paint the outside of these. Now if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because obviously you'll be notified when we put out more videos like this or gardening videos. And while we're at it, come and say hello to us on Facebook. Visit our Facebook page, a link will be in the description below. We've got loads going on over there. There's been some very big conversations going on, so come across there and like our page there as well. Anyway, guys, that's it from me for this episode. I know it's a bit of a long one, but I think it'll cover the steps if you want to go and build some of these your own. Like I said, you don't need all the tools that I've used here. You can do it with hand tools like a hand saw and and a router or a chisel or whatever you want to use. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.